Hi, I'm Dave Kites from the OToW Woodshop, and this evening we're making a video to document this dust collector and sound enclosure that we constructed during 2020. It's a very noisy dust collector. I'll tell you more detail in a minute, but for years it was just ignored, and well, even some guys even said, well, what's the difference? We're all deaf anyway, we can't hear, it doesn't matter, so on. But it bothered me a lot, so since 2014 I was agitating to do something about enclosing this thing. It took a long time, but anyway, after a couple of years I finally got some support to do it, so I started looking to design something and found out there wasn't anything like that that I could find on the internet or anything, so I didn't know. There were sound absorption things, but nothing to enclose. The few things there were all small things, people just putting their shop vacs inside of a wooden box, and that was that. Anyway, I started doing some research, and after a while I found some materials and I put the thing together. So I'll tell you more about the details of the construction a little bit later. This inside of here is a Grizzly G1030 dust collector, 3 horsepower, 2 bags, and it was bought around 2010, so it's got some age on it now, it's 10 or 11, but it still runs just fine. It serves a couple of bandsaws, a couple of belt disc sanders, and a drum sander. They're all hooked into a 4-inch PVC header system and go through this, the flow goes through this fine dust collector that was built and then into the dust collector itself. This takes out almost all the sawdust. We never change the bags, never have to empty the bags. Well, I say never, it's a long time, but haven't emptied them for many, many months. So that works pretty well. So we got started in, let's see here, it was February of 2020, and it took us about 6 or 7 months to finish putting it together. Of course, we did it ourselves. So when I was designing this, I needed to not only enclose it for the sound, but had to consider, of course, the air, because the air has to get back out. Now, we were not going to be able to move our dust collector outside or vent it to the outside. That was not allowed. We couldn't do that. So we had to do something with the air itself. So it took me quite a while, but we finally figured out a baffle system that's up in that box up in the top. And what's in there is a labyrinth where there's baffles in there, and there's 3 channels inside of there, and they're all baffled with sponge rubber. So the theory was that the sound would, when it bounced around all those corners, would get absorbed by the sponge rubber, but the air would just keep on flowing, of course, and come out the top. Well, I was lucky, I guess, because it works pretty well. It's not very much noise comes out the top at all. We'll turn it on later and you'll be able to hear it. So that worked quite well. At one point, I'm going to open that up for inspection and show you the inside, and then you can see exactly how it's built inside. It's built so it comes all apart, so if the foam deteriorates, it can be replaced and things like that. So it's a maintainable device up there, and it's built to come apart. So the cost of this thing, I figured, is around $800 to $900 worth of materials that we put into it. We did the work ourselves with some volunteers, members from the shop, and over a period of months we got it put together. The sound dropped from standing here or even 10 feet from this thing before we put the enclosure in it. You really had to shout in the guy's ear that you were talking to when he's standing right next to you. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. It's really loud. Now I can stand here, and Ben and I, or anybody and we can stand right here and we can converse. Decibel readings, people don't understand them anyways, but they were in the high 90s within a few feet of this thing. And now they're in the low 70s. So that's a big difference in sound. So I'm really glad that it worked out that way. Now, how it's built is the studs, there are studs in these walls, and they're steel studs because that doesn't transmit sound as much as wood does. So that was one thing. And then inside, up against the studs, there's 2 layers of 5/8 inch thick fireproof wallboard. The fireproof wallboard is denser than regular wallboard, so it absorbs more sound. And put 2 layers on the inside, 5/8 thick. On the outside, there's 1 layer, 5/8 thick fireproof wallboard. In between, the space is stuffed with 6-inch fiberglass insulation. And then on the outside of the wallboard, there is 2-inch thick rock wool insulation. Well, it's sound deadening insulation, not thermal insulation. It's for sound. It's 2 inches thick, it weighs 6 pounds per square foot, and it's built just for that. That was one of the most expensive parts of the whole shooting match. But we ended up going ahead and putting that in there. After we put all the effort into doing what we did, we said, we're going to stop here, we'll go ahead and put that in there. And so I don't know how much good is done by any one of those components, but together, they're doing a good job. So those are the materials that are in there. Now, I had to consider not only the air coming out, but I had to get the air in. And I wanted to be able to get in there in a hurry in case something went wrong. I mean, I had all kinds of thoughts about, well, I'm enclosing a 3-horsepower motor, and what if my vent doesn't vent enough and it just blows the sides out or starts to bulge? Or what if the motor gets hot and the dust is in there and it catches on fire? Now what am I going to do? And I had all these nightmares. So I did a few things around that. I had 2 or 3 different door designs. I'm just mentioning this in case somebody out there is looking at this and says they want to build a dust enclosure and what else did you think about? I had in the beginning, I had a door that was full width and it was on overhead rollers like a barn door. And that needed space over there for it to roll to, and it needed a track up in the air that would be supported from the ceiling, and it turned out to be quite a bit of construction. And the door, when you get done, was going to weigh like 350 or 400 pounds, so you don't want that falling off of the rail or coming down. So that was, for a while I was doing that. And then I decided I would try rolling it on a roller on the bottom instead of hanging it. So, and then I just got to restrain the top and keep it from tipping over, and it stays on the track on the bottom. And I had a lot of design work on that, and that would have worked too. But I didn't still like the big massive weight that we were moving and the time it would take to undo it and roll it out of the way. So then I went back and I said, well, how much room do I really need? Do I really need to open the whole side up? So if you're doing one of these, you might think about that. I wanted to be able to get the dust collector out, of course, without tearing things apart. So I figured out that if I put a fixed wall up to here, a removable panel here that normally you don't take out, only if you're trying to take the whole dust collector out. So you normally leave this removable panel in place and the removable panel on the bottom here in place. Then I put a door here, and that's hinged. It's hinged over here. So we're going to open that up in a couple minutes and show you. But that is quick and easy to get out because I tied it all together with this bar. You know, Katie, bar the door. This is the bar that we're talking about. So this bar holds them all together. This holds this is fixed. This part's fixed in the top. So this is fixed, this holds the removable guy in there. And then the door is hinged, so once you take the bar out, you can just swing the door open. We had another complication. We had to squeeze this in a tight space. Our floor space in the shop is really, really tight. So, wanted to have a small footprint. Didn't want to have to move this guy over and then start moving all the machinery down either. So anyway, we made it compact. That meant this table, we didn't want to move this table out of the way, but the door, it turned out, the door needed a room to open. So we modified the table so that if you do that, and now you take the bar out, you can open the door, it swings and it's no problem. So, really it's just two walls and a ceiling. We didn't do anything with the two exterior walls, didn't need to. So we've got a door for quick access, we got venting, we got an inlet, we've got a fire-resistant interior. Everything inside except the bags on the dust collector and the paint on the dust collector are not flammable. So there's nothing in there that really can burn much, except the bags can burn up, and the small amount of dust that might be in there. It turned out that the vent was also big enough, I made it on the labyrinth big enough, that the volume of air comes out and there's very little pressure buildup inside. Very little. There is a little bit, but you can't, nothing bulges, it's no problem with it. So, and of course when I was doing all that design work, I had to keep in mind that it's just me and some guys from the shop that are going to build it, so we can't have anything too esoteric or complicated or hard to build. So we didn't. And of course we wanted to keep the cost down. So we did all that stuff. And we got what we got. Okay. So we put this hinge in a way that it's pretty much flush, which was a good thing. And this goes up, this swings out of the way, so now this door can swing around here. The inlet there, I had to connect the 4-inch pipe to the 5-inch inlet of the dust collector itself, which is a steel male fitting. And so I needed to do the transition, and I needed to go through this wall, which is about 6.5 inches thick now with all that stuff that we put in there, but I told you about before. So what I ended up doing was I glued together a whole bunch of 2x8s and made a big block. And then I put it on the lathe and I turned a hole in one end that would fit the pipe and a hole in the other end that would fit the steel plenum. And I connected them inside with a tapered channel. So inside there's this tapered hole, goes from the 4-inch pipe to the 5-inch plenum very smoothly. And that is mounted and held in place in the wall, in the removable sections of the wall. So when you take the removable sections out, if you ever need to take the dust collector out, of course you're going to have to disconnect the pipe. So this dust collector, the cyclone collector here, can be easily disconnected and slid over to the left, and that disconnects the pipe from the block. And then you take the removable sections out, and that disconnects the block from the plenum, and you're free to go. So then the dust collector can be rolled out. It's on wheels already in there. So I wanted to talk about that guy a little bit. It has a custom block made to adapt from the pipe to the inlet of the dust collector. And the other thing was, I mentioned earlier I was concerned about what might be going on inside the unit. The main thing I was worried about was heat buildup, so I went and bought the standard remote indoor-outdoor thermometer, and I put the sensor inside there right on the motor, and I got this on the outside. And this is the kind that records the maximum that it ever saw, and it's 85 degrees. So right on the 3 horsepower motor inside the enclosure, even though it runs sometimes for hours at a time, it doesn't get very hot. So I'm not worried anymore about any problem with unwanted combustion in the chamber. So that's always there. So you ready?
Ready.
Ready. All right, now I'm going to open this up and show you the inside and some of the construction. You take this 2x4 we machined a little bit, and we made, of course, these brackets to fit on there. And then you can open it up. So you see, we didn't give him much room at all inside there. Doesn't need any room, really. And this is the rock wool, obviously, 2 inches thick. There's 1 layer, 2 layers of the 5/8 plasterboard, fireproof plasterboard in there. And inside the wall, there's steel studs. Didn't have enough of this and didn't want to spend the money for more of it to completely cover the inside. So the ceiling doesn't have rock wool. Only the 2 walls have it. But it works fine that way. So now, if you needed to get this out, you would then take this assembly apart. And to do that, you slide this way, and now this is loose, see? It can come out. So if I wanted to, and I don't because it's kind of heavy, I'd get my buddy and we would actually just lift this up so it comes off the block. Lift it up, move it over, and take it away. It's out of the way. And then we can disconnect the pipe and the block, and then we can just slide this whole bottom section out of the way. And that's how and then we have a room, it's space from here to here. It's big enough. You can pivot that guy, he's on wheels, and he will roll out of it. So, there you go. It looks, this is the first time I've opened this in a long time, so I'm just looking to see what's going on. And the bags are both connected, and the inside is not coated. You might think it would be coated with fines, but it's not. It's not. That guy takes out some really fine stuff. So you don't have a problem with the fines getting through the bags, which they do, and getting out. So it's working pretty well. When we put it on the wall, I didn't put just headers on there and use those concrete fasteners to hold it. I put vertical 2x4s to help hold up the header, because the ceiling's pretty heavy because it has the 5/8 fiber plasterboard on it, just like the walls, and then it's got that pretty heavy vent sitting on top of it too. So all that weight up there, this wall and that wall and the stud supported wall headers on the other walls, they hold it up just fine. I've been up on top of that, sitting up there, and it's rock solid. So anyway, it's all good, and we'll put this back, and I don't think there's much else worth getting you to look at in here. It's just a standard 2-bag Grizzly dust collector. Doesn't that close nice? We worked on that, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Put that to work. Dick helped build this thing. Simple as that. Quick and easy. Put the bagel back down. 30-second job.